Welcome back to Armchair Sports Talk. This is Brandon Harris, and today we're going to get into the Week 0 football game between the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida Gators. Our predictions next. Welcome back. This is Brandon Harris, and today Mr. Sean Hicks is joining me from Dallas, Texas to help preview Saturday's game. Sean, how you doing today?
Doing good, Brandon. How about you? Glad the football's back. Exciting. Week 0.
Man, we're a week within a weekend, and, man, I am so excited for the game Saturday. So, basically, Miami and Florida, a great way to kick off the season. 6 p.m. Central Time, so 7 Eastern on ESPN. It's going to be in Orlando, so a neutral site game. And some initial thoughts, let's just point out the Miami Hurricanes. So kind of a tumultuous offseason, a really bad ending to last season, coaching change. One of my personal favorites, Mark Richt, is now out as the head coach at Miami. In comes Manny Diaz, the former defensive coordinator. Dan Enos brought in as the new offensive coordinator. They did bring in a lot of talent in the transfer portal due to a late start for that coaching staff on the recruiting trail. Plus, they had a lot of attrition in a lot of different areas. Again, with that late start, Richt out, Manny Diaz in, plus the poor end of the season led to a lot of decommitments. I think, Sean, you mentioned that's the most decommitments from any program in the country. So basically, they had to patch up some holes, and they did that through the new transfer portal.
Yeah, if you took just their decommitting class, their average star ranking of their decommits would have made like the number 3 highest star ranking in the nation.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I remember at some point there was some recruiting services that had them 1 or 2 in the country early on in that cycle. So they definitely had a lot of momentum. The turnover chain was going, and everyone was pumped up and excited, but that really fell flat quickly. They brought in a lot of talent on the transfer portal due to late start and to the recruiting season. But Tate Martell came in from Ohio State when Justin Fields moved over, came over from Georgia. He looks like he was just named the starter there. So Martell, with the arrival of Fields, then decided, well, I want to go somewhere where I can play. Chose Miami. So that was a big move there. They also brought in some impact players on the D-line, wide receiver, and some depth on the offensive line. So, Sean, bring us up to date. How are they looking going into the season?
Yeah, Miami was an interesting team last year, right? Their S&P ranking is a little higher than you normally expect for a 7-6 team. They're about number 26 to end the year, and that is somewhat goofy because of the butt whooping Wisconsin put on them in the bowl game. So they're probably even a little higher than that in reality. So here's the thing. Miami was a top 10 team and a contender against Clemson if they could pass the ball at all. I mean, to give you an idea, they were the 4th worst passing team in the nation. Out of 119 teams that were ranked by S&P, they were 115. That's real bad. And what makes it worse is you're trading a senior for a redshirt freshman quarterback with 2 freshman tackles. The passing game looks to be continuing to be a sore spot.
Pretty scary. And I don't care how highly recruited you are, 2 freshman tackles is scary in anybody's book. So let's hop over to the other side. Let's look at the Florida Gators really quick, just a quick look at last year. But second year under Dan Mullen, the coaching staff, albeit still intact from the last season. Felipe Franks, another guy who really took a lot of big steps last year under first year with Mullen. So he's coming off a good year of experience there. But, however, they did have a pretty rough offseason, a lot of dismissals, a lot of transfers, a lot of bad stuff came out in the media, comments by Dan Mullen. Different things with folks around the program, just kind of left a negative vibe on things altogether for the team. However, they are still ranked in the top 10. They're coming at number 8 in the preseason poll. So, Sean, how are the Gators looking?
Yeah, I mean, so I have a longer preview of the Gators that you can find on Armchair Sports Talk. I highly suggest you guys check it out. But for this one, what you can see is the second year of continuity, I think, is going to be a big step on offense. I think Franks is way maligned from the end of the McElwain year. He got a lot better at the second half of the year. I think you expect the offense, even with the loss of some offensive linemen, to take a step forward to be, from mediocre offense to decent to good, right? Probably not great, but solid. And to the defense to stay really, really darn good as a top 15 level unit that you'll be able to see. So, I think their ranking, maybe it's a little high, but there's certainly a reason to think Mullen's second year bump can happen here.
Absolutely. And as we've mentioned in the past too, Mullen has such a way of masking some inefficiencies on any roster he's had. So, you noted in your preview and in this game, it's an interesting matchup because The strength of Miami is their defensive line, and guess what? Florida's bringing in 4 new starters on their side. So Mullins had a whole offseason to prepare for it, and I'm sure they'll be ready to go and figure out a way to bring out their best. But let's run through. We mentioned the transfer portal, bringing in Tate Martell. It was a quarterback battle over the offseason, and recently a surprise announcement was made, and Jaron Williams was named the starting quarterback. So tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, I think that is a surprise. I mean, he was a pretty high-level recruit. I think he was somewhere like 77 in the nation. Athletic guy, but still more of a pocket passer. Like, I think if you remember Ohio State's quarterback a few years back, his name's escaping me, just a giant.
JT Barrett?
Not JT Barrett. Cardell Jones, yes. Kind of in that mold, maybe not quite that big, but not fast, but hard to bring down, good enough to run a zone read level, but, we're not talking about Lamar Jackson sitting in the back. And he was a good passer. He was pretty accurate. In high school, but still a surprise, right? Like he was expected to be like a year 3 guy still, one of these guys with all the physical tools in the world, but needed some seasoning to be able to go in. But yeah, I think it was real surprising he won the job. But, as we mentioned the front, I think the biggest problem with Miami is not even him. It's just that offensive line looks so dangerous. With tackles. One of them is a redshirt freshman, yes, but he was flipped from Appalachian State the last minute, put up 90 pounds of weight in 12 months. I mean, there's no way his body is in the shape it needs to be at this point in his time. He just needs more seasoning. I mean, probably good for his future, right? But he's going to need time. Their offense is going to be bad, but their defense was top 10 last year, right? And I expect the same this year. They're good everywhere. There's no weaknesses, and their defensive line goes 8 deep. They can rotate pretty heavily.
Yeah, they seem to always kind of recycle guys in and out, and they just really have a great, always a great core, group of guys that can really get after and be disruptive, get after the quarterback. I want to go back to Williams and Martell really quick, if you don't mind. So you're saying Williams is more so of a pocket passer, similar to a Cardell Jones, former Ohio State quarterback. How does this offense change in your mind with the other things you spoke of, with the inexperience on the offensive line? How do you think the gameplay would change from a Martell, who's more of a scrambler, to a Jaron Williams?
I mean, the answer is I don't know to an extent, right? Dan Enos is a traditional, old school pro style 22 personnel type guy, right? But under Saban, when he was in the offensive coordinator, they were far more spread out, zone read based. The reality is, I think they're going to have to go with a quick passing game from their passing game, and then just try to pound the football with a bunch of optioning off players. I don't think they're going to have a choice to do anything else, just with the limitations that they're working with. Even if he wants to run a more traditional complex offense, I don't think he's going to have the personnel.
You'd almost think, and that makes sense going off Enos's background, but to me, if you have a young, inexperienced offensive line, it might make a little bit of sense, because they do have some game breakers outside, to put in a guy like a Martell and run, some RPOs, some different things to help keep the defense on its heels. Of course, Martell would be a great runner. So yeah, it's interesting to hear kind of that feedback. It sounds like Enos kind of goes with what he knows, and that's Jaron Williams there.
Yeah, and who knows what Martell looks like in practice? Maybe he just can't do it, right?
Yeah, I think it's got to be some kind of a maturity issue. Talent-wise, I don't see why he wouldn't win out this battle. But the fact that the day after they announced that, Jaron Williams is going to be the starter, Martell didn't show up for practice, said he's still going to be on the team, just some maturity issues. So now it's the second school he's at where he's gotten beat out. That's probably more to do with it, but hopefully he comes out of it and he's not another in the, Johnny Manziel mold, both shorter white quarterbacks that are fast.
Yeah, there's rumors he's practicing at receiver, actually. He may be making a position switch to a slot receiver. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Rumors that 4-7 shoe now.
Well, he's certainly got the wheels. So take us through the rest of the roster really quick. They got DJ Dallas coming back, and like I said, a couple of playmakers on the outside. So offensively, they got some studs, it looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, they have the ability to put up points, right? I don't know if they have the ability to do it efficiently. Like, 10-play, 11-play drives down the field is going to be real tough to do. But DJ Dallas averaged 6 yards a carry on over 100 carries last year behind a very good running back, and when he had no passing game to help him out, right? Like, the dude is good. He's legit. He's NFL caliber for sure. I'm a big fan of DJ Dallas. It's going to be the question of, can the offensive line open up enough holes to be able to use it? He was a little bit all or nothing last year, right? Think of either ripping off 40, 50-yard plays or, getting stopped at the line. And like I said, I think that's more of an offensive issue than a DJ Dallas issue, right? And then a receiver, I mean, Jeff Thomas, he's a game breaker. Now, he's not your traditional first-round NFL draft pick type receiver. He may be a little bit more of an athlete, but he is of the top 1% level of athletes, right? A lot of big plays can flow through him. He can fly. And I think that's going to be the way they score points in this game through the season, is being able to put enough explosiveness on the field to mask the undoubtable inefficiencies they're going to have.
Right. They're definitely going to be relying on that big game-breaking play to keep them in games. It sounds like a lot of times with the trouble they might have up front. Let's hop over to the defensive side. We mentioned the D-line a little bit with that depth. Let's talk about the front seven, really, D-line and linebacker. What do they have there?
Yeah, I'm going to go quickly through this because I can just say real good for pretty much every position, and you pretty much have it, right? D-line, they did lose 2 guys to the NFL, but it's one of these things, they have so many bodies, and they're all B-plus players. It's pretty reasonable to expect that one of them can break out, right, to be like an NFL type player. They can really rotate a lot. I mean, it's going to be real strong. They had 2 linebackers that I'm pretty sure have been playing since Larry Coker. I mean, this is their seniors, like they're 4-year starters. They played a lot of games, Quarterman and Pickey. And then their secondary, they returned just about everybody off a really good secondary. This is going to be a top defense, right? This is going to be a top 15, top 10 level defense. It's just going to be how hamstrung are they going to be by their offense last year. A few games they gave up a lot of points, and it definitely seemed like I just give up, right? Like there's just no way the offense will ever put up points. And if they can stay in games, I think they can be pretty dominant. They just have to be able to get off the field once in a while and stay off the field.
Got to get enough first downs to give that defense a break, no matter how deep they are.
Yeah.
Let's go to Saturday's game, though. How does Miami win this game?
Yeah, so I think when you take a look at this, it's a lot of reason to say, well, I don't know how Miami puts off the win, but I don't think that's really the case. They have enough game breakers that they can score, right? If a ball bounces a weird way, if a play goes for 70 yards instead of 20 yards, and we know Todd Grantham can turn – if anyone can turn a 20-yard play to a 70-yard play, God damn it, Todd Grantham can find a way to do it. They can put up points, and that defense is good enough to stop Florida, especially week 1, right? So you get a few long plays, a special team plays, and maybe some turnovers, and you're really looking to win this to be able to win this game. Their offense is unlikely to be able to move the ball. They're just not. But if they can rip off a big play and their defense can really harass Franks, right? They can really get after him with their depth. And, Florida's offensive line that has 4 new starters on it just gets crushed up front. Yeah, absolutely. I think they can win it that way. I don't think it's crazy for them to be able to pull. I think they'll give them at least a 30% chance.
Then from the Florida point of view, how do they win this game?
You're the better team, right? Do not give them an inch to breathe. Again, I think on defense, you're going to win every down. They get 20 yards, fine. Who cares? Because their next 3 plays are going to go back 10, right? Cannot give up giant plays and dominate that line of scrimmage like you should, and you'll be fine on a defensive section. On an offense, you need to be efficient. I think Miami's really good. I don't think they're going to be putting up a crazy amount of points in this game, but if they're efficient, able to flip field position consistently, get in the proper field position, finish drives, even if that's just a field goal, it'll be a snowball effect, and that'll really turn over. So don't turn the ball over, be efficient on offense, and on defense, dominate the way you should.
Well, and also it seems like they have a pretty good alignment and good strategy offensively going in to potentially wear down that strong Miami defensive front. You're mentioning, the ability to stretch the field vertically, horizontally, make them work a little bit, come at them from different ways so they can't just, pull their ears back and get after Felipe Franks. So it seems like, from a schematic standpoint, they have a good approach, or seemingly so on paper at least, that we could see them having success.
Yeah, and consistently standpoint too, right? This is the second year under Mullen. This is the first year. This is the first year for Manny Diaz, right? I mean, that's a big deal. And you make a great point there, right? What Dan Mullen wants to do is be able to take your biggest advantage and turn it against you to an extent, right? So he wants to be able to he knows he's going to have a weakness on the offensive line. Let's run a bunch of RPOs. Let's stretch the field. Let's get the ball quickly into Tooney's hand and Van Jefferson's hand. in Cleveland's hand, and let's make this our athletes versus your athletes. You don't have to worry about the big guys up front as much. And I think they are in position to do that, where Miami, I think, is in far less position to be able to take advantage of that. And I think that's one of the main reasons Florida is going to have the upper hand here.
So who wins this week 0 matchup, Sean?
It's going to be ugly. I mean, honestly, like, we're going to be pumped, excited. Man, this is football. This is going to be awesome. And, dude, it's going to be flags. Like, there's going to be flags. There's going to be turnovers. I think it's going to be ugly for Miami. I just can't see them moving the ball. Like, I think they'll get enough big plays where they'll get in the end zone, but it's going to be a slow-motion blowout type thing, right, where it's vaguely close up until Florida in the late third quarter, fourth quarter, gets in up by 10 points, 14 points, and it's just Miami just can't do anything, and it kind of spirals out of control from there. This is something, if this is week 7, not week 0, then I think Miami has a much better shot in this. But just given how much new stuff they have under the bright lights, they're the only game on. Give me Florida by like 24-10 in a way that it seems a lot worse than the scoreline.
I have to agree with you. I think it's going to be an ugly game. College football, typically a lot of teams will put the cupcake game on their schedule to kind of have a preseason game, quote unquote. This year, neither one of these teams have that. So I think you're going to see a lot of penalties, a lot of sloppiness, a lot of cramps probably, missed tackles, procedural penalties, so on and so forth. Also, the atmosphere. I think the game being in Orlando, pretty close proximity to Gainesville, you're going to see a lot of Gator fans there. Don't know how well the Miami fans travel in comparison. So you're going to see a loud, predominantly Florida fan base. I think it's going to be really tough for that young offensive line for Miami. And I'm with you, man. I think at least 2 defensive touchdowns for the Gators. I think Todd Grantham's wild blitz schemes and emotional blitzing might just pay off most likely in the second half, I think, when Miami's trying to get back into the game. So I agree. I think it's going to be just a really butt-ugly game, but it's still great and beautiful to have football back.
The worst game of football is still football. It's better than not having it, right? And God knows it's better than the preseason, so I'll take it any day of the week.
This one does count. So with that being said, any final thoughts on this one, Sean?
I'm going to be very interested to see what it is. This is week 0, so despite all of our guessing, nobody really knows until the field gets to take place, and that's what makes week 1, week 0 beautiful. Is everyone has hope, maybe just for 60 minutes, but it exists.
Gotta have hope, man. Gotta have hope. With that, we're going to call it a night. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel at Armchair Sports Talk. Hit us up on Twitter at ACS Sport Talk or on our Facebook page at Armchair Sports Talk. Let us know how we did. Send us some comments. Send us your thoughts. And look forward to seeing y'all next time. For Brandon Harris and Sean Hicks, have a great night.
See you guys.